Good morning. We are James and Arty today, better known at the church as JD and Arty. We came here 21 years ago looking for an evening Sunday service, as our former church had quit doing that. At that time, our Sundays were starting very, very early in the morning, well before 6 o'clock, and going into the late afternoon as we ran our restaurant. So we live fairly close to downtown Salem. We thought we'd look at the downtown churches and see who had an evening church service. I discovered that this church, Disciples of Christ, that is my roots. I was in the cradle roll at the Silverton First Christian Church, followed up with the Sunday schools, and was baptized there even after we moved to Woodburn. So this just seemed the place to start. And our very first time we came here, like I say, 21 years ago, Allison met us and introduced herself and invited us back, told us a little something about the church. And from that point on, we were regular attenders. And at that time, that evening group would periodically have dinners. And they knew we had ties to a restaurant, so they asked us, would we like to, prepare a meal? And we said, well, okay. It was about 20 people. And that first meal was a spaghetti dinner. And I think that's where it started us on our mission of preparing congregational meals. Some of them have been small and some of them have been big. After Allison got us coming here for the evening service, she then introduced me to the Bible study. There was a Thursday evening Bible study. I started coming to that and got to know more of the members. And then Allison again introduced me to the Rosa CWF group. And so I became involved with them, and that's how I started getting more and more involved with the CWF, with their events and their projects. A service is our gift and talent, and meals have been a big part of that, but there's been a lot of other things that we have found that we could do. There are a lot of them behind the scenes. That's how JD wound up making the communion bread. And they were purchasing the bread, and the bread was much tougher. And we were deacons at that time, passing the loaves of bread around, and we were observing people yanking this bread off the loaf. And it shouldn't take two hands to pull a piece of communion bread off the loaf. So JD says, well, I think maybe I can do something about that. And so he started experimenting with his recipes and eventually come up with something that you could easily pull a piece of bread off of the loaf and it didn't crumble. And so that's just been one of his service things. Some of the things that I've gotten involved with have been the same way. I've discovered something that I thought needed to be done, whether it really did or not. I took it over. One of them was I witnessed in the wintertime women coming in here to get their snack bags bareheaded. It's cold out there. And so I started knitting, and that's how my knitting of the hats came about. And it feels good to see somebody walking down the street and I recognize my hats. And this past year, our flower calendar has had many holds. And I grow a garden with roses and dahlias, and most often there's something out there that's blooming. So I check the calendar and see if someone's going to bring a bouquet in, and when they don't, I prepare mine and sneak it in here, and everybody gets to enjoy my flowers. And then I pack them up and take them into Melissa's office for more people to enjoy. Another thing that I become the VBS shopper. And this came about when Lori and Betty were having problems trying to get prepared for the Vacation Bible School. And I said, well, I can shop. what woman can't shop?
She
Apparently
loves
Betty
shopping.
doesn't. Anyway, so I have become the VBS shopper. And then another thing that happened this year, when we came back to the church, it was decided that we would need to clean between the services to keep everybody safe. And I thought, well, I can do that. It meant 2 cars in the parking lot because he wasn't going to come down quite that early. So, okay, fine. But it's worked out fine, and I was able to, do something. There's been many opportunities for us to provide meals, and just some of them are small, tiny little meals. Like we've both served as officers in the Treasury position, and so when they started doing the board meetings at lunch, it was decided we really need to have a meal. So okay, we do the board meals now, and then we have provided meals for Family Promise when the church hosted those families here. We stepped up and took our turn at that. Well, probably the meal that we're most known for is Thanksgiving Sunday meal. And Lucy retired, and so we were asked, can you carry on? Well, okay, we'll give it a try. That was scary. And we just didn't know how that was all going to come about, but we managed to do it. And since then, we've changed the preparation a little bit, so it's not, it's easier to do and not quite so stressful. And probably the service that has been greatest impact on us was our 3 mission trips to Ecuador. At the time, I thought, I'm excited to go down there and see these people, but I don't speak the Ecuadorian language, and maybe they can understand me, but I thought, how in the world am I going to manage this for a whole week? It turned out it was not a problem at all. They accepted JD on the construction and for his electrical skills, and so he fit right in. They always had something for him to do. And I found that a hug and a smile, and I could just sit down beside those women, and whatever our project was, whether we were stripping paint or painting or whatever it was just a good feeling. And while we were there, we did form a relationship with a family. We were asked if we would be godparents to a little girl that was barely walking. And well, okay. And so each time we went back down there, we were able to connect with this family. And at the last time we saw her, she was 5 years old. And mainly just returning to this building. Yeah, we were so ready. We did okay with the live streaming and sitting there watching church in your slippers. This was okay. But we were ready to come back and just see our friends and take communion with everybody. And it's just this is our church family, our home.
No, I don't need to say anything, other than I really do enjoy this church, and everyone that I meet is so nice. It just feels like home.